Okay, our first dialogue was based on homosexuality and heterosexism. First, we discussed what heterosexism is and what homosexuality is. Heterosexism is a system of attitudes, bias, and discrimination in favor of opposite sex, sexuality, and relationships. In other words, the norm is everyone is heterosexual and is attracted to the opposite sex and has relationships with a guy and a girl. But with homosexuality is when the people of the same sex are attracted to each other. So normally a relationship consists between a girl and a guy, but sometimes a relationship can be between two girls or even two guys. Being a strong Christian, I was taught that homosexuality is wrong in God's eyes, but that does not mean that I shun people who are homosexual or that I judge people who are homosexual, because I have met some people in my life that are homosexual, and they actually are very nice people, and they don't act any different than people who are heterosexual, and just the fact that they like people who are the same sex as they are. One of our activities was to create a Venn diagram based on what we believed was most important between a person's first language, person's age, religion, ethnicity and race, gender, socioeconomic class, ability, and national origin. And then we had to fill in the circles what our ethnicity, our socioeconomic class, our gender, our sexual origin, our age, our national origin, our first language, and any kind of like physical, emotional, or developmental abilities in our religion. And I said that a person's first language was pretty important because it's kind of hard to carry on a conversation with someone who speaks some other language than the language that you speak. And then I said the next important thing was a person's age, because a 45-year-old person doesn't really agree with a person who is 20 years old because they have different ideas and opinions. And then the next thing I said was religion, because someone who is Buddhist does not have the same ideas and social beliefs and customs that someone who is Baptist or Methodist does. And then the next thing I said was ethnicity and race, because same thing with religion. The next thing I said was gender, because girls and guys have different opinions on things that they do, things that they like to do, things they like to wear. The next thing I said was socioeconomic class, because sometimes people who are more fortunate than others don't really have the same ideas or opinions about things. And then the next thing I said was ability and national origin, because they're kind of small, because I didn't really think they were that important, but other people might have. Our next activity was to list 5 things, which was a friend, a group or organization that we were a part of, a family member, a job that we wanted, and what a dream was that we wanted to have outside of college after we graduated. So given a color, you had to slowly cross off one of your 5 things based on what color you were. So me being blue, I did not have to cross off anything, so I was very fortunate. Well, what the idea was that we were supposed to be homosexual, and we were coming out and telling all of our friends and family and everyone that we were homosexual. So we had to pretend as if this was our life. Like, me being blue, I didn't lose anything because all my friends and family accepted me for who I was. But other people who were red or orange or yellow had to cross off a friend, a family member, or a job that they wanted, or a dream, which I was very fortunate in my color because I got to keep everything, all of my 5 items. Okay. After that, we watched videos of people telling their family members that they were homosexual. I thought that our leaders were very nice and stayed on topic well. However, the subject was somewhat uncomfortable and awkward to discuss in a group of people who I didn't know, because I didn't know what their beliefs were. They might have thought differently than I did, because today in the world, a lot of people have different beliefs and different ideas. And some people believe that homosexuality is just fine, but being a strong Christian, I believe that me personally being homosexual is wrong. But I mean, I know people who are homosexual, and I mean, they're nice people, and whatever they believe is what they believe. I mean, I can't force someone to believe the same thing that I believe when they're obviously homosexual, and that's just the way that they are. And I believe that if I was homosexual, I would be afraid to, as whether or not to come out, being unsure if my family or friends or my boss would accept me for being who I was, or shun me for being different, or if they would accept me and still like me and still love me and just still want to be a part of my life. I was brought up in a heterosexual family, and I was taught and I believed that heterosexuality was normal just because of the church and environment that I grew up in. But like I said, some people weren't raised that way, and some people who are brought up in a homosexual family turn out to be homosexual. It's just because that's what they were exposed to as a child, and that's what they grew up feeling that was normal. But with me having a mom and a dad, I grew up thinking that that was what was expected, and that was what was normal, was a relationship between a girl and a guy growing up and getting married. But some people just don't feel that way, and they grow up and realize that they are attracted to the same sex. And I mean, yeah, it's a little weird walking down the street seeing two girls holding hands, but that doesn't mean that you can just judge people because of what they believe and how they feel. I mean, they can't help it. It's just what they believe and is how they feel. And you can't go around just forcing people to believe the same thing that you believe, because that is wrong.